You didn't lose a lot offensively, player personnel-wise. I guess with Gasecki, what's the impact of his loss on the offense in terms of what you can do? And can Tyler Croft at his size assume many of the things or all of the things that Mike did?
Um, I don't know if you can really quantify it specifically to okay, this player is going to take over this production or this role. It's more of when we look at a team and a defense, how are we going to attack the structure? How are we going to utilize our skill inside of it? So I think more of week to week as we try and use our personnel to put pressure on the defense. I think that's more of probably you're using guys in different ways, and you don't really look at it as okay, this one role, one production thing will be taken over by one guy or one aspect. You look at it as, all right, what's our plan? How do we want to attack? Where do we want to use it? How do we deploy our personnel appropriately?
Does losing him though remove anything from the playbook, or there's really no impact while respecting the fact he's a good player?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you lose, good players, every year is different. So, this year, I mean, how we're going to use our personnel will, obviously week to week dictate what we're trying to do. But yeah, Mike's a great player, and this year we'll make sure we use all the guys at our disposal to, attack the defense appropriately.
What's the biggest challenge that the combination of Bosa and Mac pose?
Um, Both of them together, obviously, very talented guys, very talented pass rushers. Obviously, playing the run as well. I just think it makes us, be very aware of, how we're going to run the football, how we're going to protect the passer. I mean, just making sure that, you know, we have a plan for talented guys, because I think each week, when you're dealing in the NFL, you always got one rusher, two rushers. I mean, the good thing is that through our training camp, having to go with Jalen Bradley. I mean, you're dealing with two talented rushers as well. So I think ultimately, just for our end, is that when you're dealing with talented edge guys, it's just making sure that you account for them, and I think that'll be ultimately the challenge each week as we deal with the you know each team's premier pass rushers.
Right. Mike told us that one of the things he wanted in year two was for you to kind of take on more like strictly coordinator duties instead of dealing more with the offensive line. I was curious how that's kind of manifested itself in training camp and preseason, and maybe on game day in the regular season. How you kind of see your you what are you doing on game days? I guess this year.
Yeah, just here, there, and everywhere. Um, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that certain things changed. I mean, it's more of emphasis towards things. I mean, I think ultimately when you're working as a coordinator with a head coach who's the primary play caller, it's you know, all right, where are your eyes? You're making sure that you're, you know, seeing all positions. You're communicating things. We're talking about scheme. We're talking about many things. So um, I think more of it's just instead of being in more one area, you're more broad. So I think that especially this week, it's been a great dialogue. As we are getting ready to attack these guys, but um, I don't know. I guess the season will determine, all right, how much fun we get to have.
Oh, I gotta find
Yeah,
you.
exactly. I mean, it's what is today? Thursday? All right, so I'll be about everywhere. All right, Friday, you'll know where to find me. I'll be at Fort Lauderdale chilling. All right, that's about one guarantee.
Frank, how would you assess Tua's growth in terms of understanding defenses and how they're trying to defend them?
It's been great. I mean, his ability to understand the offense and what we're trying to do, his communication, what he's seeing, what he's trying to expectations with the guys has been awesome. So, I mean, ultimately, we're really excited to start the season and just see where our growth is going to go, because, the greatest challenge is, last year was last year. This year now, with all the off season, all of our emphasis now is going to put it into practice, and no greater challenge than having to go across the country and, take on an opponent that's going to be up for the challenge.
So Liam Eichenberg or Isaiah Wynn?
Oh, so how long did it take? All right, I was surprised. Listen, I mean, as far as it's game one, what we're doing with all of our guys, I mean, right now everyone's doing a great job with their preparation. So, I mean, what we're planning to do with all personnel, I mean, I think that's kind of the advantage. It's the same thing with the Chargers. I mean, they didn't play any of their starters in preseason one, or any of the preseason. So, like for us right now, we're just worried about today and making sure that we're getting better at stuff. And who we're going to deploy on Sunday, obviously, will be a surprise to them, all right, but not to us, as we've been working all off season and working and getting better.
A lot has been made about the Chargers' defensive game plan. I'm sure you've heard it a lot. Press man, crowding in the middle. As it relates to Mike, what kind of stands out to you about him as a offensive mind and game planning specifically, and being able to make adjustments, whether it's in game, week to week, or over the course of an entire season?
His flexibility and his ability of what he's able to see on Sunday. Being around many different guys, many different offensive play callers, from, Sean Payton and, Adam Gase and Dahl in Chicago, and then Gruden, and then with Joe. You just see many different ways guys do things, and the way Mike, his familiarity with this system, understanding its answers, how we do things. I mean, that's the great part. So, and that's really also, like, as we looked at last offseason, as we looked at last season in our offseason emphasis, I mean, it's just those things that we know we could work on were really emphasized, and that's why this Sunday is going to be a fun opportunity to make sure our growth, and then adjusting as we need to adjust as the game goes.
Regarding Austin Jackson, he was going up against Jalen Phillips, and I know that you guys believe in an iron sharpens iron. Did Austin have enough success to gain confidence in his game, or is it still kind of at a building, learning process stage?
I don't think he really ever, confidence was an issue. It's more of opportunities. When you lose the majority of the season to injuries, it's like you're kind of reestablishing fundamentals, what you're trying to do, and I think that was his primary emphasis, is just getting back to where he wants to play. I don't think really from, being around Austin now for these 2 years, confidence was ever an issue. I think it was more of just getting the consistency of things, because when you go to the right tackle and then it plays out and the season doesn't go, it's like more of now it's just, hey, I'm getting the reps, I'm getting everything I need to go, because he lost the whole season, except for about a half a game. So, but yeah, I would never say really AJ's ever struggled with confidence.
With Wilson out, what can you say about the running backs behind him? And also, do you anticipate giving Raheem Mostert maybe a larger workload than we've seen from him last season?
I would say just coming through camp, we've been very pleased with the backs in general. It was a very competitive group. Guys really performed well, ran the ball well. Unlike everything when you're dealing with tight ends, running backs, wide receivers, guys who contribute on special teams. So just all full phase contribution. So, as far as what we're looking to do for the season, I don't think there's really, it goes back to, right, using our personnel appropriately when we need to use them. Every guy's got things that they bring to the table. But ultimately, we've been very pleased with the back group, and it was real competitive. Competitive all the way down to the wire with, who we're going to take.
When you take into account all of the spring and summer practices, I know you chart every single snap, and as well as the preseason games, has there been a reduction in pre-snap penalties on offense, in your opinion? And has there been a speeding up of the play readiness process?
I mean, coming into the offseason, obviously that was an area where we knew we could grow. And, like everything, when we start out, when you emphasize it and you're working on it, yes, we did feel that we improved in that area. We felt that, more importantly, it comes with, year two of a system and guys being around each other more, like just knowing, hey, this is how the cadence is going to work, right? We're on the road, silent cadence and different aspects to it. So, yes, we felt we had improvement, but now, with all the off-season and everything we've done, the big thing will be taking what we feel is our improvement in the off-season into the season.
Coach, I'm putting together something on Coach Bevel and his impact over the course of his career. And Hall of Famers, Pro Bowl players have a lot of things to say about what they've learned from him. Is there one or two things that you've taken from Coach Bevel in the year you've worked with him here?
Yes, he is extremely meticulous in his process. There's not one. You deal with guys who are just they go through it, and it's not like it's week 9, week 15, week 1, all right, the first day you got here. He's just a very detailed guy who understands, has been a part of a lot of good football, and coached a lot of great players. I mean, hell, what was it? 2 weeks ago, we were joking about something, and then we pulled up the Saints Vikings playoff game from '09 and the NFC Championship game because we're talking about Brett Favre and his ability and his just courage in the pocket. And it was like it flashed us back because then I got to New Orleans right after that season, and then we opened with the Vikings to start that season in 10. And his wealth of experience is great. I mean, everything like I think we talked about before, it's perspective and who you work with. If we all came from the same place, thought the same thing, had the same viewpoint, right, it'd be a pretty boring day. You know what I mean? We'd all just kind of go like, we good? When you deal with guys with perspective and an expertise like he has, it's been awesome. And I think that's the great part of our staff is that the perspective from everyone.
Frank, when you have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, you have a big matchup advantage in a lot of cases. Is it tough to go away from that advantage and run the ball or throw to a tight end or throw to Braxton Berrios, for instance?
No, throw to the open guy. But at the same time, it's also good that when you have a talented skill group, you have talented wide receivers like we have. It's awesome. And then, it's one thing to be talented on Sunday. It's another thing to be talented every day of the week in the way you practice. So, like there was a quote I heard a long time ago when I worked at Butler and I lived in Indianapolis. Marvin Harrison was like, They don't pay me to play games. They pay me to practice." And when you deal with the guys who take that approach, like both of them do, that's why Sundays look the way they do because of the way they prepare and handle things. So we're very fortunate to have both of them, and at the same time, we're excited for this Sunday to get started with it.
Frank, we saw the explosiveness of Ezekama with those 2 preseason game runs. If you and Mike and Wes decide to use him much this year on offense, what skills does he have which intrigue you guys?
Yeah, I think that's his ability to get the ball in his hands and make plays in space. I mean, it's he's had a good offseason, and we used him in kind of a variety of roles. So I think ultimately, as we keep preparing for the season and keep really trying to use him to his best abilities, I think that we're hopeful that this season's going to really showcase all the things he can do, which we feel pretty confident about.
Turned out Miami of Florida is the real Miami.
So you say. Yeah, that was a tough day at the office for the old alma mater, but we'll always have next game. So that one was tough. My buddies from college were all here, and they're all asking me about things, and I'm going like, "Listen, man, training camp just ended. Like, you want me to go to work right around the corner? Like, I'll catch that one on TV."